is to me. What about Maria? Was she still alive when I was born? Ramon died the year before Maria. They both live long enough to see Isadora marry your father, but sadly not long enough to see you born, Erizo. Had my mother named me before she died? Not properly, no, but when you were born we all say you look like a hedgehog with your hairs that stuck up. She and we call you Erizo while you were still with us. And then I became Tiggy, nicknamed after a fictional hedgehog. I pondered the coincidence, if that's what it was. You know my proper name is Teegeti. Yes, your father tells us he will name you after one of the 7 sisters. Did he find more of you? One more, yes. My sister Electra arrived a year after me. And the 7th sister? No, he said he didn't find her. There are just 6 of us. I am surprised, she said. Why? Annalena opened her mouth to say something, but then shut it again. She shrugged. Sometimes the messages, they are confused. Now, Erizo, would you like to see a picture of your mama and papa? Yes, please. I watched her rummage in the capacious pocket of her kaftan. She drew out a colour print. As she handed it to me, I felt the hairs on the back of my neck prickle. I stared in wonder at the image. This is them on their wedding day, I murmured. See, it was the year 1963. The couple in the photograph were gazing at each other, the love and adoration shining out from their innocent young faces. The colours had faded to pale imitations over the years, but I saw that the man had tightly curled brown hair and warm light brown eyes, and the woman— You can see you look like her? Annalena ventured. And yes, I could see. Her hair was darker than mine, but the shape of her eyes and the planes of her face were very familiar. Mi madre, I whispered. Te amo. It was past 2 o'clock already and I had to be at the airport for 4:30. I had so much to think about, but it wasn't for now. Leaving Annalena dozing in the sun, I went to collect my rucksack from the hotel. Then I walked back to the blue door and pulled aside the curtain to bid farewell to her and the most recent arrival to our family. Bear was suckling at Ali's breast. I've come to say goodbye, darling Ali. Take care of yourself and the little one, won't you? And thank you so much for coming here to find me. I kissed them both. No, thank you and your wonderful relatives for being here with me. What a present I'm taking home. Ali smiled. I'll see you at Atlantis very soon, I hope. I'm sure you will. Are you okay? She asked me. You're very pale. Annalena just told me about my mother and father and how they died. Oh, Tiggy. Ali stretched out her hand to me. I'm so sorry. Well, I suppose it helps that I never knew them. To be honest, I just feel a bit numb. I'm sure. Well, one day, if you want to, I'll tell you all about my birth family and you can tell me about yours. But for now, darling Tiggy, go back to Atlantis and get strong. I will. Bye, Ali. Bye, Bear. In the courtyard garden, I woke Annalena and told her I was leaving. Come back soon, Erizo, won't you? And bring that nice Mr. Charlie with you, she said as she winked at me, and I blushed. Pepe appeared from inside the cave holding a stack of CDs. Here, Erizo, he said, handing them to me. Although you not meet your abuelo Meñique, you can listen to the music he made. You listen and you feel the duende here. He put a hand over his heart and smiled at me, the corners of his brown eyes crinkling. Vaya con Dios. Be safe, querida. Both Annalena and Pepe hugged me and kissed me on my cheeks, which were running with tears. Marcella was waiting for me by her Punto to drive to the airport. Ready, Tiggy? I gave one last wave and a smile to my family. Ready, I nodded. Later that evening, I flew home to Atlantis in the private plane Ma had arranged, my head still full of my past, but also my present. Things being how they were, I decided I wouldn't even contemplate the future. When Ma met me at the dock and Christian handed me off the speedboat into her warm, comforting embrace, I remembered what Annalena had said about those who loved us wanting to be given a chance to care for us. I was here for a few weeks to rest, and that was that. So I surrendered to the comforting cocoon that constituted Convalescence at Atlantis. My bed sat in the middle of the room to take advantage of the wonderful view of Lake Geneva. I lay like a princess in my airy attic retreat and found that, both mentally and physically, I was far more tired than I'd imagined. When I reflected on the drama of the past few weeks, it probably wasn't that surprising, so I listened to my body and gave in to its demands. Often, to the sound of Meñique's soothing voice and guitar music on my old portable CD player, I'd find myself dropping off after lunch, coming to an hour or so later. Claudia, our wonderful housekeeper, insisted on bringing me up breakfast, lunch and dinner, plus a nighttime mug of hot oat milk and homemade cookies. But by the end of the first week, I was becoming restless. "Please, Claudia, won't you let me come downstairs for supper tonight?" I begged as she delivered yet another tray of food. "You must be worn out climbing the stairs 10 times a day, and I really am feeling stronger." "Nein, Liebling, you must stay in bed and rest." It was obvious that Charlie had been in contact with Ma, and both my carers irritatingly insisted on following his advice to the hilt and beyond. I'd been forbidden to leave my bedroom, and I'd even had to physically prevent Ma escorting me into my bathroom when I'd first arrived. But as the next week passed and it was obvious I was fighting a losing battle, I capitulated and began to think how I could use the time I had wisely. Angelina always said that everything happened for a reason, and as I pulled all my notes I'd taken in Sacramonte from my rucksack and began to commit them to memory, I decided she'd been right. The process made me ponder how exactly I was meant to use my newfound skills. Was I meant to change my career path completely and set up shop as a full-time herbalist cum spiritualist like my ancestors? These days, to practice that kind of thing professionally, whether it was prescribing powerful herbal remedies or laying hands on injured bodies, human or animal, involved having qualifications that showed you knew what you were talking about. 10 days with an ancient Spanish gypsy would not cut the mustard in today's bureaucratic world. The brujas of the past had treated customers who trusted completely in their gifts. They'd had no need for certificates to confirm the practitioner's talents. I spent many hours staring out of the window at the mountains on the other side of the lake and wondering how I could incorporate what I'd learned into my work. And the more I thought about it, the more I realised that Chili might have had a point when he'd declared that I'd chosen the wrong path. Animal conservation was great, but I knew for certain now that I wanted to use my skills on the animals themselves. "Your power is in your hands, Tiki," I murmured, staring at them earnestly. I then thought about Fiona, the way her man-made medicine had seen Thistle recover within a couple of days, and Charlie and Angelina both using modern and holistic methods to care for me and Ali, and I wondered if there was a way I could combine the two. "Oh, I don't know," I sighed, frustrated that everything had been so straightforward when I was working for Margaret. Animals, fresh Highland air, and busy from dawn to dusk. I went online to have a look at courses that could possibly qualify me in the normal world to practice on animals, and to my surprise, found a number of holistic ones, including one in Reiki. And, as Fiona had mentioned, there was a list of alternative veterinary practitioners working in such a way. Would I really want to go back to uni to retrain as a vet for all those years? I asked myself as I chewed the end of my biro. No, I shook my head in frustration. I'd be an old lady by the time I came out, and besides, I don't want to cut them up and study the inner workings of their lymphatic system. There has to be another way. As I grew physically stronger, I found myself wide awake at night. So, after Ma had been in to take my blood pressure and say goodnight, and I'd heard her walk softly down the corridor to her suite of rooms, I gave her half an hour to fall asleep before I rose from the bed and began to prowl around the house. The first time I'd felt the urge to do this, I thought it was simply because I had cabin fever, but as I got up night after night to resume my nocturnal ramblings, it struck me that I was searching for something, or more accurately, someone. I felt Pa's presence in this house so strongly it was as if he had just stood up from his desk to go to the kitchen for a glass of water or to climb the stairs to his bed. I found myself rifling through his desk drawers for any evidence of him being here recently, or any clues I might find to explain the enigma of my beloved father.